So SketchUp can't do BIM, folks. Remember that.
We don't take anything else away from this episode. Remember that. You know what that theme music means. You are back listening to SketchUp Talk. This is season 4. Thank you for tuning in. I am your co-host, Matt Robison, and with me, as always, is Aaron Dietzen, the SketchUp guy.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, great to have you back for another season of SketchUp Talk.
Great to have you back. I mean, you're MIA for a little while there, and we managed to rope you back in, so it's good to have you back on the team and back in front of the mic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I duck in, I duck out. You know, I'm here when I'm needed, like Batman. When the SketchUp signal comes up, then I'm there.
There we go.
At your call, your beck and call. So, happy to be here.
Yeah.
But a little bit something that we're doing different for season 4 of SketchUp Talk is that we're doing it in front of a live studio audience or virtual studio audience. They're definitely here in spirit, but they're definitely here in chat mode. So at the end, we may have some Q&A, bring people up and hear them ask their questions. So an exciting turn for season 4 of the podcast.
That's right. It's a little different than how we've done it before, but this is us pivoting. This is us adjusting to life in the pandemic. We're virtual, so we can't even go in the studio ourselves. Much less bring a guest in. And last thing in the world we could do, of course, is get this audience together. But this is perfect. This technology allows us to do this sort of thing. Here to make sure we stay on task and on topic is our producer, Aubrey.
Hi, thanks, Aaron, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone.
And we're going to bring our guest on now. Our guest is the Senior Associate of VR BIM at M Moser. This is Jason Lee. So Jason is going to come up on stage in just a few seconds. He's going to talk about how they're using SketchUp amidst to address social distancing needs. He's going to talk about VR. He's going to talk about BIM. He's got some. This is where I got to stop introducing because he's going to do a better job of this, and we're just excited to get him to have him on the show.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question about that. I feel like if there was like a heat map of like cool SketchUp stuff being done, there would certainly be a huge spike in Singapore, and our guest is certainly contributing to that because I'm sure you people, if you're in the SketchUp ecosphere, you've seen some of his work on the blog or in videos or other places. So his reputation precedes him. He's famous in the SketchUp world. So
All right.
Let's hear it.
All right.
Jason.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, Matt. Hi, Ollie.
Welcome to SketchUp Talk.
Yeah, thanks for inviting. It's really been an honor to be here. Actually, to be the episode. In a SketchUp Talk. Yeah. Amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you for hanging out. It's bright and early where we're at, but it's dark and late. I guess the opposite of bright and early where you're at. So I appreciate you calling in your Friday evening.
Yeah, sweet Friday evening. Love this kind of Friday evening, It's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's right. We're all locked in. We can't go out anyhow. So what are you going to do? Well, I might as well be on a podcast.
Yeah, podcasts as well as, writing some codes or, doing some SketchUp stuff. It's going to be fun at home.
Good Friday. It's a good Friday.
Fun. It is, indeed.
Awesome. Well, we did throw your title out there. Tell us a little bit about what it is that M Moser does and what you do specifically.
M Moser Associates, our company that is a global, well-established, 40 years history architects and interior firms that are focusing on workplace design and deliveries. And for me, I'm a senior associate on the VR BIM, as well as the leader of this VR BIM technology global team. Supporting all our offices. Well, I mean, recently we're very, very close working with our North American region in Canada, in United States, basically everywhere. So our team is more focusing on, as you heard, VR as well as BIM and how to integrate both. And in the meanwhile, that we're also kind of like developers, the technology forefront people, in M Moser. They're trying to push the boundaries a little bit more than usual. So this is what generically I do. Yeah. And in the meanwhile, I'm an engineering grad, but I have approximately about 10 years in the interior design industry. I mean, in that professional discipline, as well as I'm a lead AP, AP, reset AP, so active AP who can earns you a credit during the sustainability and wellness certification process, though. And also, Trimble visiting professional that I've working with Trimble for quite some time, and all lovely people. We've visited universities worldwide, and yeah. So that's generic about myself and M Moser.
That's awesome. That's quite a bit.
It is.
That's cool. So we have so many things to touch on. I figured we would start because it's the most topical piece. You guys have kind of gotten really taken charge on social distancing, I guess, is the big part of it, right? And how you address social distancing using SketchUp as a tool. Can you talk about a little bit about what you guys have been doing? Because it's awesome.
Yeah, so probably I can share with all the audiences. Just say hi, everyone. So basically, I can share my story. Like, let's just close your eyes early in the morning or late at night, and let's just rewind a little bit back to last year, January. Okay, so January 19th, last year, I was in Beijing and flying back to Singapore. And I arrived Singapore 3 days later, Wuhan starting to lock down. I was kind of totally shocked. Then I received a call from our Ministry of Health and saying that, Mr. Lee, you got to stay home for about 14 days self-quarantine. I was kind of totally stunned. Like, what is going on, right? And thereafter, around last year, my birthday, early in February, and we actually have a request from one of our existing clients from London. Yeah, and they were saying, we got to have a certain level of detail about the contingency plan. What if the people can coming back work, and also how can we take care of that? Because back then that everyone was thinking, might as well this COVID thing is going to be disappearing one day magically, probably. Where it has been dragging on and on until now, it's almost like, going to be quite a few year thing, right? So back then we started to do this social distancing measurements, because you need to have a metric, which is social distancing, which in US, I think initially was like 6 foot, right? Mm-hmm. And in China is about 2 meters, and Singapore is about one meter or something, right? So every country has, or every region has their own kind of like social distancing metrics. So what we did in the first place was pulling out, the traditional AutoCAD plan, and we're thinking just doing dimensions from the work locations, like sits to sits, right? And that project was really painful in the first place because it has like 380 sits. And we literally did the dimensions like one by another. And thereafter, we use the layer and also the coloring, like label them, because you got to be green, which is occupiable, and red, which is going to be removed, those kind of sits. You've seen all those kind of stuff throughout the years, right? So that was really costing a lot of time. And it's like a tiny floor plate, but 382 sits. And it really just, like everybody's like, is this going to be our new type of job? That's really
color coding seats. That's what you're doing for a living.
Yeah, and well, I mean, like everyone's kind of like feeling miserable with that, because if we're dealing in Moser, we're dealing with a lot of larger scale jobs, right? Like 1 million square feet or 1.5 million square feet, so and so for campus job. So now 382 sits were already crying, and everyone was kind of like, can you do that faster? And she said, no, I cannot. Sorry. You literally need to ensure that's right? Because the fundamental principle, we got to keep people safe. And thereafter, we were imagining, what if the next month, we have, let's say, a 10,000 square meter, about like 100,000 square foot, probably 1,000 sits. Then what are we going to do with it? And the client is everyone is in a rush, just saying that, I want this right away. And everyone is so panicked. And even for this, because the client especially mentioned, there's another thing about this return to workplace type of job. A funny fact is that all the clients love statics. Everyone loves those kind of a spreadsheet. So we even grasp one of the quantity surveyor, we call them QS in Singapore, but in North America is estimators, to count the stuff, because they're better counting on all the stuff, right? And that lady was literally kind of like crying. It's like, Lord, you guys just, saying that, okay, so this is going to be one work zone, that is going to be another zone. I need to count it over and over and summarize in a spreadsheet. So here's the sum, here's the average. Wow. And, the biggest problem actually I see I saw wasn't that kind of like painful process, but it's mostly about this process is ruining the collaboration. Because under that kind of circumstances that everyone is facing, everyone is panic and everyone's in a rush. And what we should do like integrative process, like everyone should be integrating with each other, right? Everyone is feel free to mention about something and to help each other as a team, right? To get this out together, including together with the clients. But if, let's say, we do in this way, like we measure all from the plan, that's going to take in, let's say, a week to do 300 sits properly. And thereafter, we get back to the client said, we have some new plans, right? We're financially in trouble and probably we cannot roll this out. So what you're doing for nothing, right? And just wasting of time. So live collaboration, that's actually the first thing I saw back then. I think that I need to create something that everyone can visually see that result in real time and to foster that collaboration happening. So this was the intent.
Yeah, it seems like you have a lot of responsibility. Like, people generally talking would say like, oh, we need to get back to normal or whatever. But obviously these are the changes that you can implement directly that like get people back in the workplace faster. And obviously you can't have a lag time between every little change, somebody having to manually go back and change everything. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you would try to, automate that process.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the most important thing is that has to be instant. So I actually imagine with my team as well as our principal, Joseph Look and Maura Moser, we had a couple of meetings about this, and Maura and Joseph, the couple, was asking me, whether you can create something that can foster that kind of like collaborations, because the most important thing that in M Moser that we see is about collaborations and integrations. So thereafter, I literally kind of dropped out on left-hand side and right-hand side, what's going to be the UI, the UX, the user interface that in SketchUp that we want people to kind of like click this button, click that button. So there's a workflow, same intuitive as SketchUp one. On the back end, that actually the program, the Ruby extension or C extension is actually running with the algorithm to give you the instance results. So that's something that we were kind of leveraging, and it didn't spend a long time. Like I remember it just like less than 4 days, and we came out with all these kind of like flow charts about programming. And thereafter, literally, I mean, SketchUp has been has the Ruby API and also the C API has been around for years, so it's pretty easy to pick up. I mean, right? Ruby is a simple language, simple and beautiful language, and also the API is very, very comprehensive for developers like us. So we just directly packaged it as a RBZ, then internally we tested out, and that was amazing because initially it's like we're kind of scared to talk to the client because that's one thing is about we can't get this thing wrong because that's about people's life, right? It's about safety. And on the other hand, that our client services guys, project leaders, they are trying to engage the client so hard, but they don't have anything. They can just go out there and say that I come here, but I don't have anything. Let's collaborate, but collaborate on what? Right.
Right.
So this extension was made, and it was very, very kind of like decent, I could say, because upon like creating the zone, like the engineers, designers, architects, and even the facility managers, plus the estimator, and even the clients. We're just sitting in a virtually like this kind of room, and we just say that we can just try that live in SketchUp with that simple extension, right? And you can back and forth, just trying it out. So if the plan is kind of visually looking good, then we can just create action plans, and we made a function because we actually kind of like internally beta tested a few rounds, and we realized that this plan for the social distancing is going to be passing to other parties, like let's say MEP engineers, right? Like the engineers or some of the the wellness, like the well and lead kind of advisory team, so they can have more inputs. So this whole thing, the SketchUp model that we're working on, is a working environment that engaging everyone and visually, so everyone can see it, right? So we actually made this kind of export button, exporting the JPEG, the JPG, as well as the transparent PNG. that's good for the client services folks who is actually doing all the PowerPoints and keynotes and slides, right? Transparent background. And thereafter, we do. That's one thing that Moore and Joseph is very much against it. So we actually made this integrated export in CAD, which just for everyone's information right here. I hope this one won't be like globally can be here, but our principles in M Moser is very, very pioneered and very, very dedicated in promoting the 3D based working environment to engage everyone in a virtual reality environment, and the most important thing that they see is about collaboration and integration of people visually. So everyone have a visual platform to work together. So that's, this probably, this is not really a kind of like, this is way much more different from like a marketing slogan or something, but it's really something that embedded in every M Moser staff worldwide, everywhere. So what we see, the most important thing is about we have a visual platform and we can work together to create the best work of our lives. So yeah,
that's really cool, especially because I think people might think of like normal base SketchUp as being flexible or nimble to kind of plug into your processes for that visual communication. But once you can get past that barrier of coding stuff and getting into Ruby and making custom extensions, it sounds like there's a whole new world of communication that opens up to you that allows you to expedite. Do stuff in a lot less time and a lot easier and better communication ultimately visually.
Yeah, I just to add on, I think the most important thing that is the starting point at where we came from to create all these kind of useful extensions is I think is two characters. One is simple enough so that people is taking less time or no time to learn it. They don't need to like just put an iPhone in your hand and does Apple send a genius to teach you how to use an iPhone? No, right? So you just install it or open up the package and just click a few buttons and you know how it works. So this is one thing that we focus in our team, VRBM technology. And Moser's side that our principals don't prefer, they never show any preference about so-called shiny technologies that really lacks of caring about the user experience. It's not easy to use and nobody's willing to, use this thing. And it's just kind of like, it becomes a standard in the industry or so and so forth. And thereafter, everyone was kind of feeling enforced to do that, to moving forward. So that's what our principals don't like. But what they want us to do, that's why my team is here. So they want us to create the simple, intuitive solutions, just like SketchUp, and providing to our people and also our other alliances, so we can create a better collaboration together.
Yeah, it seems awesome. Like working within a structure that would hinder you, like I don't know, traditional BIM workflow or something like that. I had also heard that some building commission or something in Singapore requires certain BIM deliverables. Is that something that you've run into, or is that something you've heard of? Or
oh yeah, so I actually have some certain connections with the building construction authorities here in Singapore. So we're kind of like as well as friends, as well as sort of like colleagues or coworkers, or somehow that we're kind of like aligning on a lot of things, especially on the sustainability and wellness and digitalization, especially we call it IDD. So it's the integrated digitalization delivery. Right? So yes, Singapore have this cloud check of the BIM model. We have to also have the BCA. BCA also have this the BIM and the VDC guides. So we have our own schemas. It's quite similar to the IFC, but it's not exactly the same thing. Okay. So that's something that moving forward. And speaking about BIM, I think it's pretty interesting topic though. We can elaborate on that.
We can talk about that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just put the social distancing thing again aside first. So the social distancing thing is actually last year September I was being invited by the BCA, so I actually introduced that to our a bunch of guys who are working on the return to workplace playbook. It's going to be issuing to all the employers in Singapore. So they realize that it's so easy to use and it's just based on SketchUp. And everybody even kind of asking me, is this kind of thing like computational BIM stuff that people are talking about? I say, well, that's BIM and it is computational, right? Mm-hmm. And they were like, one of the guy from our the JTC, they even said that there's nothing more BIM than this. So I have one important thing I want to address here is actually everyone is saying that we're doing BIM, but yes, we're doing BIM, but what we can make use of it. We created so many models with a lot of data. The data is scattering around everywhere, but how are we going to make use of it? So this magic social distancing plugin, what is used is only one single attribute that SketchUp, generates while you have that kind of a component or instance, right? So we just grasp the center. That's the only thing, which is considered as a BIM geometry attributes residing inside SketchUp, and it does the computation from center point to center point, and it just gives you the best results, right, among like dozens or hundreds of different, center points. So that's generally what we do, and that's a specific use case that we're doing is kind of like using one single BIM attributes inside SketchUp, which this center point is being generated inside SketchUp and by SketchUp itself. So I always heard a lot of things like people saying things, rumors like SketchUp is inaccurate. Well, it's actually numerical driven. It can be data driven, right? We have dynamic components it has been lying around for how many years? More than a decade, right?
It's been a while,
Yeah, so you put in 2 meters, is going to be 2 meter exact, right? You put in 6 foot, it's going to be 6 foot exact. So it's definitely accurate. And some of people saying that SketchUp cannot do BIM. Everyone is using SketchUp. Everyone loves to use SketchUp to design, but SketchUp cannot. It's not a BIM software. Look, the BIM software is a very general term. It's like what is BIM? So it can do like 2D documentations from a model. It's based on 3D. It can put up a 4D like virtual VDC, like this kind of virtual construction sequencing, and do a little bit clash detection, right? And we have 5D like doing the quantity surveys and also the estimations, right? Quantifications of takeoff. And 6D is we can input certain facility management information into the model. SketchUp can do all that. So this is one of the conclusions I've been sharing like with a lot of audiences in various channels, that SketchUp is your beloved 3D design software. And in the meanwhile, there is ways and there is methods that you can make it a full-fledged BIM, right? It can be a database for further uses. So this is one thing that I should be, I just said that, right? So SketchUp can do BIM, folks. Remember that.
We don't take anything else away from this episode. Remember that.
That's right. Eyes in the camera. That's it. I had a question about that. I mean, one of the things you talked about was the authority, and coming up with a standard of what BIM is, what the requirements are. You're talking about a file format, that kind of thing. Do you think that is the way to go about standardizing BIM? Because like you said, and I love it, because this is the, when you have your thought inside your head and then somebody from the outside comes in and says the same thing you think, and you're like, I'm not nuts. It turns out that makes sense to someone else. One of the issues I keep running into with myself is like there's this lack of standardization around the word BIM. So some people think, well, I model a 3D model. That's BIM. Well, that's not BIM. I have a spreadsheet of these parts and I include it with my plans. Well, that's not BIM either. Does it take something like that authority to come in and say, here's what BIM is and here's what's required? Do you think that that's the piece that's missing for most locations where they can't get BIM standardized?
I think there is a little bit kind of like problems like region by region. Like for instance, like American Institute for Architects, you guys have your standard like back in the States, and RIBA in British, that they also have their own standard. Singapore, we have our own schema. So, and also on top of it, that everyone shares like Building Smarts Institute's IFC schemas, right? So I think that IFC is probably one of the, it's a very complicated XML library or XSD library. So it contains like everything, all the classifications, and in Revit they call it families, right? And have different kind of attributes, like instance attributes. So look, because in M Moser that we're mainly dealing with workplace design, so I could say that there is like more than half of the jobs or the projects that we're doing is about interior. And to be frank, that For architecture, yes, probably you can standardize it. Probably because the category of things, like classifications of things, right? It's not that many, to be frank. You have structural, you have like rebars, and like all sorts of cladings or curtain walls, right? Or curtain wall glazes or curtain wall mullions. So it's probably the modern architecture or the current architecture design is probably getting there. But for interiors, to be frank, I came across a lot of clients, and sometimes they have BIM policies and BIM standards, all sorts of kind of booklets, very thick books. Yes, architecture, somehow they have something. And for interiors, commercial interiors, no, nothing. It's barely kind of like have a thing. So that's something that we're running into. But more and more frequent, there are a lot of people coming to us and say that, hey, I want a LOD, the level of development. We all know like LOD BIM has 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, right? So actually, the most thing I've seen in common is LOD 350, 350, somewhere in between the 300 and 400. So that's basically construction documentation. And to be frank, that a little bit disappointment on the technology side of our industry. I mean, technology awareness that everyone looking at BIM is just like 3D to 2D documentation, like drawings of packages, right? So still, it's a drawing based something that is we as in M Moser, we are more interested in doing and collaborating stuff, in 3D environment. So the documentations, like formalities, drawings, unless one day we can get rid of those in the architecture, engineering, construction, operation, industry, the AECO industry, the mindset is way too hard to kind of like, moving forward. So this is one thing I want to mention. We have intuitive softwares that people can easily learn, like SketchUp, and we have excellent developers like in the extension developer, the SketchUp community that can develop everything, right? Whatever, and we have governments who wants to kind of like getting it standard or have a basic guidelines for all the local practices, right? But however, that if the architects and all our industry is still running on all the drawings, then we won't make that true digital transformation. Yeah. So that's one of the myths I've been seeing, like watching for certain years. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter how much information you put into a model. As soon as you print it onto a piece of paper, it's probably by the time the ink dries, it's probably out of date and the information is no use anymore. I mean, like I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I remember working on designs like big building designs and, having to send these things out to get printed because they're huge, they're, big DE size prints, and knowing that there's going to be red lines on them when they get back from the printer because the design has changed or something's changing. So that's hard to get over. I mean, it's hard because we're so used to paper plans on the job site, right? That's reality. That's how our industry works. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's a great point.
Another interesting and funny stuff that we're doing throughout all these years that in Moser that we use SketchUp to model like a job. When a job came, right, we just directly go into we call it 3D test bed. So it's basically using a white model or something that you can quickly plot in a SketchUp with our own like dynamic components that we're willing to share that. And so that it's kind of like starting in the 3D environment. So right from start, because we all aware that what we're deliver is a 3D space. It's not a 2D plan, right? We're not delivering the drawings. Yeah, the most important thing that we deliver is the true scale, the true feeling, the true visual, and look and feels to the client. We want the exact 3D representation of that. So if everybody is more focusing on that, so this is what we do. So right from the start, we're doing 3D and all the way throughout, including until like 4D, which is plotting out the sequencing. So there is a lot of like project manager in M Moser that are working directly with the designers, designers according to that construction schedule. They plot it out step by step. So the project manager can have it visualized and understand, so this is what I actually wrote in the Office project, right? In the Microsoft Office project. And hey, I probably need to shift this, or maybe these two actions can be parallel, right? So it's about like kind of inspire people to think about it. instead of repeating every day. Like, okay, so today I schedule, tomorrow I schedule. Okay, so the partition going in, I need installations. I need to have all this kind of electrical trunkings and everything, a cable tray. It should be unique on every single site, right?
Well,
So
yeah, and no, I was just saying, and along with that, I mean, yes, every job's different, but also, jobs are living, breathing things. Stuff changes, and the more people you have to get involved, the more changes end up happening, and I think that's also an argument for what you're saying is, we don't get done. It's a process.
Yeah, and for us, like we're using SketchUp and then layout to do. I mean, SketchUp and layout. I'm not sure how many of our audiences knows about layout though. But when you install SketchUp, you definitely have layout. All right, so layout is just like the paper space of a SketchUp 3D modeling space. All right, and if you're using layout, so for us, like if let's say we have some change orders or whatsoever. In the old days, the biggest problem is that you go through a 2D CAD and you need to, if it's a multiple floor jobs, you need to kind of like correct them, not only the plans, but probably the elevations, then the details, then the joinery items and everything, right? But in SketchUp, it's kind of everything in a 3D environment. You just change it right in the model, right? It will reflect to different kind of a layout files, and so that everything is getting kind of updated in the same way, right? So. And also because you're using 3D to show the differences, the before and after to the client, so they will getting easier to understand. They don't like clients. They only care about look and feel. What I pay for, right? I want to get a look of it. But in the old days, what we do is we go back and we're trying to manipulate the material codes, which is a spreadsheet. The clients needs to refer to it. They would just come back to us and say, I don't know this. You're marking up like red lines here, blue lines there. Whatever revisions, but I don't know what it is, right? And you're trying to describe that costing time. So rather than doing that, we just kind of change in SketchUp real quick. And here's what it's going to be look like. Quickly, we get sign off, pop it up in the layout, and everything is there. Boom, go. Everyone's clear.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I like the communication aspect of that, and going from the 3D and the 2D stuff. What's interesting to me, the other part of your job title is the VR part. And that's really like my language that I like to talk about from like a production standpoint. So if we're talking about workflows, what is your kind of workflow for VR? Do you have like a preferred tool or like a preferred kind of way you do stuff that's best at communicating that kind of vision to client? Or what does it look like for M Moser right now?
VR, the adoption rate is quite high, especially for the North America region. So yes, we use SketchUp to do model, and for the VR production, there are two popular ones, which I mean currently among our users. One is Enscape, another one is Twinmotion, and definitely Unreal Engine as well. So Epic Games, they have done a great job, and with recent days we have accomplished a few jobs, so which is quite big one, like 500,000 square feet just for interior, that kind of job, and it was really kind of crunch, like less than 2 weeks. You have to pull out everything, and we made a VR same based on the SketchUp model, and we bring it into the Twinmotion, and just quickly kind of a geolocate the things. So you have all the surroundings, you set up all the lifelike people walking around, the real the lifelike plants, and also the greenies, and also the architecture itself, plus the interior. So it is really kind of like stunning because we create panoramas. I have to. Do I need to define that? Because the panorama is something that everyone's say is a VR or something, but it's actually just a still image. 360-degree panel. That's what actually panorama stands for. It's not really VR. The VR we're talking about here is literally a VR executable, like a game, like your CS:GO, or a game that literally you can walk in and you can interact with the item inside that scene, right? So that one normally we were creating using Twinmotion and Unreal Engine. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, that's super cool. And do you see a big kind of communication benefit to doing that, like getting people to adopt it and pull that in? Like, do you catch stuff, or do you find that communication is better because of using that versus the stuff you've used in the past?
Yes, I mean, compared to the always, including I have a few in India. I have a few team members in India that I've absorbed from the other offices, and in less than 3 months, they were turned like successfully from 3D Max plus Revit and to SketchUp to SketchUp with either like Enscape or Twinmotion or Unreal Engine. So, I mean, they are all kind of like, I believe it's because SketchUp itself is a very intuitive software. So all the extensions like rendering softwares further working together with SketchUp is also very, very intuitive and easy to learn, right? So that's something I really enjoy. I really enjoy the whole ecosystem. The keywords is intuitive.
That I gotta call out, because we've talked to several people who are talking about their professional workflows, and one of the things that keeps popping up is, it is a workflow. It's not a single. Obviously, the reason we're all here is because SketchUp, and it's kind of the piece that binds us together. But you're pointing out too that it's not just you don't have designers sitting in SketchUp 24 hours a day just doing SketchUp. Like that is part of the workflow. It seems to me like one of the like I said, the common pieces that bind together you and a lot of our other guests is you're willing to take that piece and make it available to your designers along with other pieces too. I mean, that seems like that collaborative workflow is what makes BIM, or just even at this point design, work for M Moser.
Yeah, I think Aaron, you said it right. So basically that I think that M Moser did a really awesome job, because this culture that is engaging our own people to kind of like integrates internally first and to integrate others in the job. Let's say we have a third-party consultant, so we even have the clients. We keep saying that we're working with our clients. We're not work for our clients. We're not taking your paycheck and just I work for you. It's not like that. It's like we work together with you because your organization, your company the best, and we can be your team members, and let's just work it out together, right? And SketchUp is one of the fundamental piece. I could say it's a very, very key and fundamental platform that connects us visually, so everybody keeps on the same page and everybody understands the same rapidly. This is a very, very important. And definitely, I mean, based on SketchUp, we have Trimble Connect, which is fully able. It's basically cloud app, right? So you can run it on the web browser. So just get rid of all the hassles like installing the software, then finding your IT supports to get all the admin passwords and all that kind of stuff. You just give them a link, right? And they just log it in and see the model, and you just do and all the clash detection results is cloud computation. So everything is in there already, and it also integrates a lot of third-party consultants. Like if let's say they're using Revit to do the MEP modeling, like engineering modeling, it doesn't really matter. So we're using SketchUp. You have IFC using Tekla, right? And they're using Revit. It doesn't really matter. Everything can join together on the Trimble Connect. And one of the awesome job I really want to give a applause to the TC guys, that is Trimble Connect supports Revit. So that's one amazing news. It doesn't like BIM 360. If let's say we have a SketchUp, we have to export it first, like as a 3S or OBJ or something else that just getting the geometry in. But actually for Trimble Connect, it seamlessly incorporates Revit, the RVT files. So it brings the integration like seamless, because everyone probably you have your preferred software, but it doesn't really matter because we're all integrate our models here for what? For collaboration, clash detection, and understanding each other's better, right? So that's one of the good thing that we really like.
Wow. There might be a sales position available on the Trimble Connect team. I'm not sure if you're looking, but that was incredibly well said. That was no coaching, folks. This is for real. This is real.
Yeah, this is something. I'm just a normal user like everyone else does. Like I use SketchUp to model stuff. I'm still an active designer. Even I'm still running a team, but I from time to time I help people to design, or I do the design, right? Or I just help them on documentations, or sometimes I help them to do like perform as a lead AP, well AP to do the sustainability using Sephora to do some like daylighting simulations based on SketchUp models that we create. So there's a lot of things that into this system, into this ecosystem, I could call it. So it's very comprehensive and holistic, that it's quite everything in here, every component, so everything, right? In this ecosystem, every piece of software or web apps, the key thing is intuitive. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to adapt. And so that's why a lot of organizations is talking about. The other day I was speaking to one of the biggest commercial real estate company, the CEO. So I was talking to her, and she was saying that, we actually have some problems when we say that, asking people switching from CAD to Revit, because the learning curve is kind of way too long. And that's true. I mean, that's the fact that every organization who is going, I mean, to me, I couldn't say something because it's not my company, right? But to me, it sounds like, have you guys really think about the user? I mean, the people, the humanity part of it. You want the people to transform, to build your own business, to be more successful. The first thing that you should be starting with is to put your heads in their shoes, right? So what your employee is looking at, they want something that is intuitive, or you can further build like us, like in M Moser, we further build on SketchUp, which everyone knows it. So you said when people are telling me, like Jason, I have this big problem. My organization, I asked them just to switch a simple software, and it just kind of like everyone is kind of refused to do it, right? But the thing is, if let's say, what if we build on SketchUp? So that was the first question, like back in like about six years ago. And we were thinking, so we have people using SketchUp, a lot of people, and we have people using Revit, we have people using like CAD and 3 Max, and which way we can achieve in the next generation that we can do BIM, like full-fledged BIM. So we asked ourselves like deeply in this question, does SketchUp can do that? And then we choose SketchUp, and we further work on it and make it a full-fledged BIM, right? And everyone feel, well, I just using SketchUp, I never change. But in fact, they have changed a lot, because when they're defining components, they have the description of the models already in. When they're setting up a new material, the material code is already in the model. So whenever we need it, we can just extract it, just like normal like quantifications and all that kind of softwares, right? I mean, I'm not saying Revit and Navisworks, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot handier, right? A lot handier.
Sounds like it. I'm sold. I'll go for it.
Yeah, good. So how's the sales position?
Looking good. It's looking good.
No, it's not really a sales pitch. It's really trying. I really want more and more people to get into this kind of ecosystem, to understand that BIM is. I think BIM it should be for everyone. It's BIM for everyone. We have so many professional disciplines, but everyone should be knowing a single piece of software a little bit. We need to find a software or a platform to collaborate. And it's something that is easy to learn, and you only need to know a part of it, and everyone can be seamlessly embedded into a workflow and make it a BIM. So this is something that why we choose SketchUp, and so far so good. We're very happy with it.
That's good.
Yeah,
nice. That's awesome. Yeah, you talk the talk, but you obviously certainly walk the walk as well. So beautiful.
Do we want to, I know we have a couple questions. Do we want to see if anybody, we got Larry and Dave. Dave, are you available? Do you have you all set up with a webcam and mic? Can you come up on stage?
Perfect.
Hey, Dave, welcome
Dave.
to SketchUp Talk. How's it going today?
Hello.
Hey. Welcome to SketchUp Talk.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, that's what I've been waiting for that one. That hasn't happened yet somehow.
All right. So here's my question. So we have a big office too, and I've got 50, 60 people, and they come in and they're all trained in various software. They're not all just trained in SketchUp, right? So I've got guys using 3D Studio Max who are whizzes. I've got Rhino whizzes. I've got Revit jockeys. I've got people still using CAD. I've got SketchUp users. We've got Unreal Engine experts, 3D Viz experts who are using ZBrush. And our single biggest challenge is the interoperability between all of those software and how to get them all talking to each other. So our goal on a given project, and we have really small projects and really large projects, but our goal is to create one comprehensive model. And no matter what software you're working in, SketchUp, Revit, 3D Studio, whatever, all of that information comes together in this comprehensive model. And I'm wondering if you have that same issue and how you deal with it.
So this is it's quite typical nowadays. It's like everyone have their own preference of softwares, right? And to be frank, that if you want to integrate that, the first thing I would suggest is you got to choose one type of like software, like single software. Let's say for us, sometimes it's Revit, sometimes it's SketchUp. So we would choose to kind of like merge all the Revit models and convert them using, a self-crafted extensions that converts the Revit families to SketchUp's IFC classifications. So that kind of like attributes can be brought over from one software to another, right? So it depends on, number one, which software you want to integrate all the models together, and number two is that how is the final format of this integrated model. So most of the time it's going to be IFC. So this is there is problems too, like interoperabilities between the softwares, especially for those who are capable to export IFC or those who are not capable to export IFC. So there's a big differences.
Yeah.
But sounds like Dave, you have a really huge team. It's like
we work on some really big projects, and we have really big teams, and some very unusual geometries that we have to model. Modeling buildings that are shaped like animals, roller coasters. We're modeling all kinds of stuff that are super challenging to model. Our single principle is that the best tool for the job is the one that lets you get your job done. So we don't make everybody just use SketchUp or just use 3D Studio or just use Revit. We let them use whatever piece of software that they're capable in and that they can get their work done in. And then our goal then is to find ways for all those things to talk to each other. And we've been struggling with it for years and years, and we've come up with lots of solutions, various solutions, and some of them work better than others. A lot of them involve third-party software that translates from one piece of software to another. We have a lot of people using SketchUp, and we're constantly bringing things into SketchUp and back out of SketchUp. And it's a huge challenge, and it is. I think it's going to continue to be the biggest challenge as new software is developed and as people learn new software. It's a really, really big challenge for us. And we haven't found the perfect solution. We've found some good solutions, but it's difficult.
Indeed, I agree. So, even standalone between SketchUp and Revit to make both of them talk efficiently, because the Revit model normally is quite huge, right? And especially when it packs into like IFC, then it's become even bigger, right? And if let's say you import that into SketchUp or Rhino, then it just crashes the program anyway. So yes, we've struggled with that before, but thereafter, actually, the personal opinion on this is SketchUp in my team, is a very, very fundamental skill. Everyone is very much kind of like experienced in SketchUp in every aspect. It's not just about modeling, but about like IO, about like classifications and all this kind of stuff. So probably that I think SketchUp will be a better choice for you to kind of integrate everything together. To be frank, it could be a better choice because I saw here in the chat that people talking about like Revit MEP book or whatsoever. It's just okay. So one thing is about the portability of the model itself. Whatever you created, Rhino is a beautiful software. SketchUp is also a beautiful software on the file size. So actually, you can run it on a laptop, right, without any pressure. But if it's a Revit model, then that's going to be another story. So normally, what I would prefer personally is I just integrate everything into SketchUp. And like via 3ES or via OBJ, various formats, but I will finally collect them all into one SketchUp.
Yeah, and we've done that on some small projects, on some larger projects. Sometimes we have 25, 30 consultants, engineers, structural, mechanical, all those guys. They're not using SketchUp, and so we've had some projects where we coordinate everything in Revit. We've had a lot of projects, especially if we're doing a really big visualization, we'll actually use 3D Studio to coordinate everything. So that's really where our comprehensive model lies, because we push it out to the Unreal Engine. And so it just depends on what the project is, how big the team is, who the consultants are, and sort of how we determine which of those pieces of software we're going to end up using to coordinate everything. So interesting. Yeah, it's a big problem, but anyway.
Because the coordination, like it starts with integration, then we can do a lot of like coordination together, right? So have you ever tried like using Trimble Connect to do that? Like with all the 25.
It's one thing we haven't used.
I think you got to try it because it has a free. You can just activate a Trimble account and you can try it right away with your team, because that's kind of like very much intuitive. You can just upload all the files right there. and you just integrate that in a web browser. There is a coordinate, so you can manipulate a lot of coordinates. Because to be frank, that nowadays more and more that I do in this kind of like BIM practices of clash detection, right? I would prefer just temporarily everyone integrates onto a platform. Then everybody just do the clash detection, proximity check, everything online. And everyone knows, you just go back and change, right? Change your own. And thereafter, before the final integration into a particular format, that everyone needs to tidy up their things, right? I know there's a lot of people, younger folks that probably don't care. It's kind of like mess in their models. So integrations, the model is big though, and it's very difficult to kind of integrate. So that's one thing.
Anyway, great. Thanks for that. Interesting.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Do we have time for one more? Do we need to call? Where are we at, Aubrey?
I think we should do one more. So Larry
Okay.
would like to come up and ask a question.
All right.
Welcome.
Hey, Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Hi.
Hey guys, thank you
Larry.
for inviting me. Appreciate you coming up here.
Yeah,
My
welcome to
question-
SketchUp Talk. What's your question?
My question for Jason, and actually to Dave too, in some ways, is with the BIM training, when you have to do BIM with SketchUp and other programs, all the training and all the softwares everybody's using, Dave and as well, what's the time frame you guys give to people to learn? I'm a teacher. I teach at community colleges, and I teach SketchUp, advanced SketchUp, and there's a time frame for everybody, obviously, in your company. What's your company allow? Is there a time frame specifically per software, or is there some kind of training assistance that they get from the company for those trainings, or do you send them somewhere?
I see Dave is typing in here. They learn as they go. Okay, so yes and yes. So in Moser, that my team, we have set up a curriculum for particular subject matters. Like for instance, like SketchUp modeling basics 101. But those ones we're not really teaching them. But it's actually providing them learn.sketchup.com on a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So because like a lot of people know SketchUp and know that it's very easy to learn, so they just watch YouTube and they just kind of check it out and they know how to use at least kind of like model it. And thereafter we will step into that kind of course. Is normally we will give them the first week, which is the sweet period. On the second week onwards, that they will be involved in a class which is internally together with other like regional colleagues. So what they do is basically talking about the fundamental concepts. So set up the consciousness in their brain. So what is components, what is group, and how is this tag, this layer is working, and what kind of style is helping you to run in SketchUp faster. And thereafter, we have a full library of collated, like self-developed, as well as the collated SketchUp extensions that we have done internally. So we have a internal website, contains all the short tutorials on each of the buttons. So it's serve as their master manual. So everyone just got that thing, and they came across something that they just grabbed their phones and visiting that page, and they just scrolling. Okay, so this is the GIF. Okay, so this is how we use it. So this part, which normally in the old days that taken a long time, like 2 to 3 weeks, kind of like getting them familiar with. So now we more prefer like, let's just hop on a job, right? Let's just get on a job, and you will face it. You will face it, and you ask me, and I will tell you where it is, right? And normally after 2 jobs, that they will be very much proficient, and they will be more passionate about, because it's kind of freedom. I mean, everyone told me, I love, designing with SketchUp because it's so, freestyle. I pretty much feel free when I'm literally doing the design, right? So it's a design. It's not really a modeling software, but it's design. And thereafter, most of them will say things like, I want to learn some rendering, because, illustrations renderings is like a big chunk of like their wishes, right? So we normally let them understanding starting with the concepts first, like what is light, what is the proper light, what is IES light, and how's the environmental ambience, all this kind of attribute, the parameter, what does it mean? And here's some of the settings that we have done. So you can kind of like trying to, I could say, mimic like the previous designer's work. So I asked them to, we have set them up like homeworks as well. So internally, so every other 2 weeks that we have a region that is going to review with my team senior members to do internal critics about how's this model has been done, how's this rendering has been done, what's the weak points that probably can improve. And we always do it like, about like 15 to 30 people, so that kind of like virtual meetings online. So it's definitely, we don't want to mention their names. Like if, let's say you didn't do a great job in your homework, but it doesn't really matter because the key point is about, well, I call it internal critiques, but in fact, it's just like in school, right? We're doing like architectural critiques, and proposal critiques. But this one, the rendering and also modeling critiques, is about reminding the AKA student about what you have done, what you have done right, and it's not really right or wrong, but how you can actually improve it better.
Right.
You can improve it better. So if you have that kind of class ambience, I could say that a live example last year that doing this kind of remote training, 3 months, you can build up our office from a very lousy, I could say. Okay, so last year, one of our offices, okay, you can guess we have around nearly 30 offices anyway. So one of the offices was newly set up, and they were kind of struggling with the qualities of their proposals because they don't want to outsource it. They're designers, they're architects, they want to illustrate using their own hands. They're good at SketchUp, kind of. Sort of. Okay, the model is huge, but the rendering looks ugly, to be frank. So 3 months later, what they have done, and they actually leading the whole that region. It's like they're wow. Kind of like not really outsourcing, but insourcing other offices in the same region. And everyone was kind of surprised. Hey, you guys having a such a short history, but you guys are able to export your help to help your other locations like in New York or in San Francisco, in Raleigh, all these kind of places. And we're kind of shocked that how you guys grow so fast, because we stick with SketchUp and we just learn it good.
That's a great answer, Jason. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think that's one of the timeframes. AKA timeframes, but it's not really kind of like fixed because it's subject to the local leaders. But one thing I can mention, if let's say like Dave, he's running an organization, I wouldn't really expect like every students to do that in 3 months. I would expect that they can half a year or 1 year later, they can be they don't have to be an interesting designer, but they have to be a good designer. So This is the fundamental skills and experiences they should have. And 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, it's subject to everyone like individuals, but I think that, this is the goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the answer. Cool. That was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Larry.
Hope that helps.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, and speaking of time frames, I think we unfortunately might be running out of time. It's been a great time hearing from you, Jason. You've illuminated so many different topics that we've talked about, and really focused on those pro workflows. And blew my mind multiple times. So, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
I would like to thank you guys, and also thanks to all the audiences. And most important thing, you gotta think with your own brain to justify and to think about the fact that what is really working for you, and don't follow the trend. Don't follow the quote unquote trends. Okay, it doesn't really matter what other people use. It doesn't really matter what the markets say. The marketing people wants you to believe that using this you're BIM, or using that you are VR. So BIM and VR, you just need to go back to that origin point where you came from and think about what is the best working for you, and choose one or choose a few and to be an expert. Then that will make you fly high up, very soon. All right.
Well said.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for sticking around. I know it's late over there in Singapore, so we appreciate you taking the time today. But yeah, thank you, Jason Lee, for coming on SketchUp Talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, and for Aaron, myself, and Aubrey, and everyone at the SketchUp team, we want to say thank you for listening to SketchUp Talk, and tune in for other episodes wherever you get podcasts. Thanks, folks, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. This has been a Trimble Media production. Thank you for listening to SketchUp Talk. If you liked what you heard here today and you have an idea for an episode or a guest, you can drop us an email at podcast@sketchup.com. If you have a specific question related to how to do something in SketchUp, check out our forum at forums.sketchup.com. Thank you.